later that summer. This was in the spring of 2017, and so I was talking to my wife on the phone and saying, "Hey, any interest in making a weekend of it and coming out here to see Dead and Company in their hometown?" And she goes, "Yeah, sure." And if you remember the Super Bowl commercial, I think it was for Mountain Dew, that had like the baby puppy monkey.
Oh yeah.
And they would say it over and over again, and it had a cadence to it.
Yeah.
Baby puppy monkey, baby puppy monkey. And the fact that I was talking about the Dead and Hippies, the Happy Hippie beer, it just kind of had that same cadence, and it just stuck.
I get it.
And when I started talking to people and throwing it out there, everybody liked it. And we're like, yeah, and there's a lot of branding possibilities with it and everything else. And so let's jump on it.
Love that. I've seen the Dead and Co twice now, and fantastic. John Mayer, I think he's in his element, being in the Dead more than he is just being by himself.
He is.
Yeah.
He is. Yeah.
Because he can just go off for however long he needs, and it's so good. I love it. I would have loved to have seen them in San Francisco, because they, like you said, that's their home. So the whole Haight-Ashbury over in San Francisco and the whole vibe and scene out there, I bet that was fantastic.
Oh yeah, it was a lot of fun. We did some of those touristy things, and I did take my wife up to Haight-Ashbury, and it's not what it was back in the day.
No, not at all.
There are some shops that are trying to leverage that late '60s era and bring it back. But at one point you showed up there, and there was a Starbucks on one corner and a Gap on the other, and you're like, eh. But the Dead House is still there, the Janis Joplin House and the Jefferson Airplane House. They're all still there. Wow. The Free Clinic is still there. And I'm not sure if I should tell this story or not, but at the time out in California, certain substances were only legal for medical use, and you needed a card to get it. And coincidentally enough, the giant record store at the end of the avenue had a doctor's office upstairs that you could go in and you could get seen, and if they thought it was appropriate for you, they would give you your card right there on the spot. And so we had to try that out.
Of course.
I'm like, how cool is this? A doctor's office on front. And the record store was huge, and they had all kinds of vinyl and stuff all in there.
Was it Amoeba Records?
It may have been. I took a picture of it. I swapped phones since then, so I don't think I have it anymore. But yeah, it was.
I know. I think I visited that area with my dad, and I think it was Amoeba, because I think the first Amoeba we ever went to was in L.A., and that thing is just massive. Yeah. And then so that one was much smaller, but it has that homier, more warm feeling to it, as opposed to like this gigantic record store.
Yeah.
So, but I think it was in the same area.
Yeah. It very well could have been.
Yeah.
I just thought it was cool that.
Well, of course.
There's a doctor up there that'll give you your medical card.
Oh,
okay, cool.
You have a headache or any other ailments that'll help you out.
Yeah.
And we've now seen medically that it helps way more people than
it does.
But that's a whole nother conversation, and in Texas they don't like to talk about. So you have fun names with your beers, like Friend of the Devil, which is your salted caramel milk stout, your Honey Magnolia, which is your honey wheat beer, which I'm drinking right now, which is fantastic, and Smoke on the Water, which is your smoked porter infused with cayenne, which I'm really hoping to try, but unfortunately right now you don't have it on tap, which is probably a good thing. Where do the names come from, and which comes first, the beers or the names?
The beers definitely come first.
Okay.
And then the names, we try to play off of the whole late 60s, early 70s music and hippie scene when we try to name them. And so that's where they come from.
Nice.
Yeah.
Now, do you feel that so I think the hippie range for people musically, like you said, is 60s and 70s, but I do feel that there are a lot of people in maybe the 80s, 90s, and even now that are kind of hippie adjacent, but I just don't think they're really getting labeled that because of the fact that people only want to kind of put the hippies in 60s and 70s.
Yeah, when the stereotypical hippie is the late 60s, early 70s, but I think the grunge movement of the early 90s brought a lot of the same interest in music, and also just style. They brought the long hair back. They brought the unclean shaven look back, and all of that. And it's just kind of continued from there up to the aughts and the teens of this century, where the whole hipster thing, the long hair might be out, but the longer beards are still in, and so it's kind of carried over. Yeah.
Yeah, I think like a Greta Van Fleet would be really good, like hippie-ish, and then I think maybe Jet even. Like I know there's a lot of European bands or even Australian bands that had that whole vibe to them, and they brought their stuff over here. Like
absolutely.
There's so many I can't even think of. I have no idea. Now, we've already talked about the food. What is some of the favorite things that they have that you would recommend for somebody who hadn't had their food yet?
It's going to sound cliche. I haven't had everything on their menu, but I haven't had anything that I haven't liked yet. So when we had discussed the menu, I thought it was important simply because in this area in Richardson, there's nothing that is German or Bavarian. So let's have that kind of component. So they do. They've got pretzels. They have brats. They also have a small menu of American items: cheeseburgers, hot dogs, tots, onion rings, and then they have a small flavoring of Mexican cuisine as well. Street tacos, basically chicken and pork. They do elotes.
Ooh, I love elotes.
And then they've got some appetizers that chips and salsa, chips and queso, of course. But they do. They have some sweet potato bites with a marshmallow dipping sauce that's really good.
Yeah.
So yeah. I haven't tried anything yet that I wouldn't recommend to somebody. So
now, as I mentioned, this place is really. You have a good sized place here. What are kind of some of the things that you are looking forward to as the years go on, like building on and making things more of like a staple or things people can look forward to here?
Sure. So we're not certain yet about special events. We're waiting to see what our business patterns are and how they normalize and what days are doing what. We do want to be known for our live music as much as our beer.
As you should.
So we have a very spacious stage.
I saw that.
And a pretty kick-ass sound system for a smaller one.
Right.
So it's not a large venue system, but it's big enough for what we have here. And so we hope that becomes part of the draw for Friday and Saturday nights anyway. And then we hope to keep this event space pretty well hopping. We've already had a pretty good inquiry about holiday parties and office meetings and stuff like that. So that'll be another staple of ours as well.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think Dead cover bands would be a good one. Obviously, any jam band cover bands would be great. So I think that could all work.
Oh yeah. We had one opening night. We had a band called 20 Hounds here.
There you go.
And the place was packed. And this coming weekend, I'm not sure when this is going to air, but on November 3rd, it is probably already aired. But we have Miracle Ticket that's coming out. And we are working on booking a date with a band called Bandolero.
Okay.
They do Grateful Dead, Allman Brother, Widespread Panic
Wow.
type stuff, and they're really good as well. So
That's awesome.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, this place is going to be great for music, and I'm definitely going to come back and check out.
We're hoping to make it such a cool place that maybe some well-known celebrity musicians that are in town might just want to show up with their acoustic guitar and play for 30 minutes and
There we go.
just unannounced, and have that be something that occurs on a random but frequent basis.
Yeah.
So when you're coming and hanging out, you never know who might show up and play on any given night.
And that's what you really want is the randomness, or like just the.
Absolutely.
I mean, I know a lot of comedy clubs have the same situation where somebody might be in town, they just pop in real fast and then work some stuff out and then leave.
Absolutely.
Like I know Keanu Reeves and Dogstar are coming to town soon, so I don't know why they couldn't swing by here afterwards.
Love him to.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're listening, Keanu.
Yeah, I really hope he is also. That'd be so fantastic. Now, this is going to be a little hard for you, but top 3 favorite beers you've ever made.
That I have ever made. I'm partial to my Captain Triples.
Yeah.
That's an homage to Jerry,
Yes.
Captain Trips. And the real kicker on that, it's sister beer, Captain Triples meets its maker. So we take Captain Triples and we age it in Maker's Mark barrels.
Is that what's on the board right now? Is that what I saw?
No, that's just the regular Captain
regular,
Triples.
okay.
It'll probably be January or February before we get the barrel aged version out
Definitely
again.
coming back.
But the Belgian Triple is a very malty beer, and the sweet malty flavor of Maker's Mark in particular pairs really well with it, and it gives it a little extra kick of octane to it, but it doesn't overpower it, and the flavors complement each other really, really well.
How much does that boost the ABV on that?
It boosts it. The regular Captain Triples is 9.7, and the barrel aged version comes in at about 10.5.
That's not bad. Okay.
So it's not bad. It's just a little kick, but
Yeah. Still nice.
but you can tell it's been aged in bourbon, but you can still tell it's beer. So, sometimes you have the barrel aged stuff, and it tastes like you're drinking a shot of whatever it was aged in.
Without a doubt.
So,
And then what were 2 other of your favorite that you've ever brewed?
I like my stout. We just brewed that today, so hopefully it will be ready here just before Thanksgiving, and so we can get that on tap. And we're going to do that on nitro here. I really like it on nitro.
Okay.
That's my second one, and I'm going to do Party at the Moon Tower. I'm not a big IPA guy. I'm not a hophead.
Yeah.
And it was designed to be just hoppy enough to qualify as an IPA.
I like it.
But not so hoppy that people say, "Ooh, I'm drinking cat piss."
Yeah.
And if you like that,
Of course.
fine.
There's a
But
lot of
some
people
people
that do.
don't. So it's a good beer that if you want to appear trendy and say with a straight face you're drinking an IPA,
Yeah, at a brewery.
you're doing it. So
Now I want to go back to the nitro real fast. So for people who they might go to breweries, but they're not big beer people, and they look at a menu and their head starts spinning. Can you explain what the nitro does to a beer so that if they go to one, they can be like, oh, okay, well maybe I'll try that because it's a nitro.
yeah, so the nitro, the carbonation as it's pushed, so it's not pure nitrogen.
Right, of course.
Right, it's called beer gas, and it's really a mixture of the nitrogen and the regular CO2 that goes into every beer.
Yeah.
The nitrogen tends to give the beer a creamier feel in the mouth.
Right.
If you notice visually on the carbonation, CO2 bubbles are big, and when you look at the nitrogen pour, the bubbles are small. They'll tend to be heavier. They'll cascade down the glass for a little bit, and some of that action tends to activate some of the flavors in the beer a little bit better as well.
Very nice.
So that's why a lot of the heavier, darker beers are good candidates for being served on nitro.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, we talked about Hop and Sting, and Hop and Sting is one of the best breweries here in the Metroplex, and there's, again, such good dudes that run that place. Who are some other breweries in the DFW area that kind of help you out while you're along the way?
Vector Brewing has helped out, especially during the build out, when we were looking for people to help with our boiler or glycol system or whatever. The folks out at Three Nations, we know those guys, and they've been very helpful as well. Open, willing to answer any questions we have. Even when we were over there quizzing them about their tap room, their sales patterns and all that, they didn't have any problem talking high level numbers with us, giving us ballparks and sharing some of that. So all that kind of stuff was very, very helpful. And even the fine folks next door at the distillery, Lockwood, they used to own a brewery east of the Metroplex. I can't remember what it was called. It was in a smaller town in East Texas. They sold it, but when I was building the business plan for this, ready to go and try to start the capital raise, They were nice enough to sit down with me, go through the business plan, look at all my assumptions.